back, everyone, to another episode of the vlog. Today we find ourselves in none other than the Gardens Casino. There's like no signage here, but anyways, appreciate you guys for the constant support. You guys have been unbelievable on the past several videos, and the support that we got on the last episode, being my biggest win ever, was pretty remarkable. Anyways, today gonna be hopping into the 5-10 game here. Every time I come to the Gardens, whether I win or lose, it ends up being a pretty fun time. The games here are pretty reasonable. There's only one game of 5-10 going, so I should probably run in there and get my name on the list. Yeah, I hope you guys have a happy Monday. I appreciate you guys' support. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the 3 times a week upload. It's been pretty remarkable that I've been able to keep myself accountable in this sense. But I'm gonna leave you guys to it. Let's hop into today's episode. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells as well. Thank you guys all so much for the support. You guys are the best. See you guys soon. Hopping into the mix immediately. This is a 5-10-20 game for most of the session. In for 2K. We're here to have a good time. Not here for a long time. I actually don't know how much of my listeners listen to much pop music, but anyways, we're getting right into the thick of it. In this hand, I have to put out the post for $10. I didn't even know I was supposed to do this. Usually, I don't really mind waiting. I just go like, I don't know, charge my phone or whatever the heck I need to do. Anyways, it folds over to me, and I look down at ace-6 of diamonds after an early position limp, so I decide to isolate here to $60 total. The second big blind, as well as the under-the-gun limper, have to make the call, as there's 2 big blinds and a small blind out there. It's kind of confusing, but, you know, this just happens sometimes in poker. Anyways, the flop comes pretty interesting, as it's 9-6-3 rainbow. And it's even more so ridiculous when the under the gun limper decides to lead jam for about $290. Going over the size of the pot, I'm not really sure what exactly our opponent is representing. He can have a ton of random hands. He can definitely have like 10-9 or Jack-9, but I mean, I think my hand is a little too strong to make the fold, especially against this player type. It seems like he was ready to gamble, and I saw him in the previous hand lose a big pot and not really be that happy. Anyways, it's not my point or my job to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not a therapist. I'm just trying to do my best to get a read of the situation and make the most logistical answer, and that's going to be to make the call. We're going off to a run out, hopefully trying to fade something. The turn card comes a jack of hearts, not a great one, and the river comes also not too great of a one, as it comes a 7. The opponent immediately tells me that he got very lucky, as he shows us 8-5 of spades. So besides the gut shot, I don't think he had anything on the flop. Lead jamming was pretty nutted, I guess. Unfortunate when the river comes in favor for him. We're going to immediately have to top off for about another $300 or $400 at this point. Not happy with the result, but happy for the action. Looks like today's session might not be that bad after all. Well, for us to win money, we're going to have to play some pots. The only downfall is when I have that attitude, it seems like I'm going to be getting a little wider from earlier position, I guess. Anyways, we're playing like 5 or 6 handed at this exact moment. I look down at an ace, and I think that's good enough to raise here. So after the under the gun person decides to fold, I make it $35. The gentleman to my direct left from the cutoff makes a call. The button makes a call, as well as a big blind. This can't get any worse, I think, than it is right now. I'm out of position against 2 players, so let's see if I can force myself through this hand, or at least get lucky. The flop comes 10-8-6 with 2 spades and a diamond. I am holding the ace of spades, which is my only saving grace at this point, and not to mention we do have a gut shot to a pretty decent holding. At this point, I decide to c-bet for $65, not going too large, not going too small. The person to my direct left decides to make the call, and everyone else folds, and we're going off to our turn card that comes probably the best card in the deck, as it's a jack of spades. We now improve to the nut flush draw. We are blocking the nuts, as well as we are holding still that gut shot, as well as the over. We're blocking a ton of the value hands, and when that's the case, I'm going to ramp up my aggression. I realize that this play that I'm about to do and share with you guys is minus EV and borderline ridiculous, so, you know, bear with me and forgive me. Sometimes you got to get a little exploitative, and I think at this point, I was feeling a little tentative, a little overwhelmed. My anxiety was kicking in, and all I wanted to do was feel myself dragging in a pot to get myself going in the right direction. The other weird thing is my opponent's stack size. At this point, my opponent was sitting on somewhere around $1,000 to $1,200. And in these situations, it's a little difficult. I don't know whether I should be jamming. I don't know whether I should just be betting. My goal was to put my opponent in a really sick spot with like a 2x jam here on the turn. It's really tricky, and there's not a lot of 2x, bets on the turn. At least there's not very many GTO models that will recommend that. Sure, that's something that you can do on the river as a bluff and for value, obviously. But in this case, I end up doing it here, it seems like. I end up jamming all in, again, in a really weird situation. I'm not saying that I did the right thing. I definitely think this is pretty incorrect, but I'm going to live and learn from it. My opponent goes into the tank before eventually exposing the ace of hearts to me, so didn't have a very good hand, I'm assuming. And he decides to make the fold. We're at least lucky to take that one down. I can't really condone my play in this hand. I can only tell you what I was feeling at the time at the table. I guess sometimes you just got to be able to take the win and just kind of move from there. But it is important to realize where you went wrong in the hand. As I mentioned, I'm pretty disappointed with the way I played it. I like what I was trying to do. I just didn't like my bet sizing on the turn. Back with the straddle here, regularly scheduled program. The button decides to open here to $50. We look down at 4-3 of diamonds. Definitely good enough to defend. We're only playing heads up at this point. We're going off to a pretty favorable flop as it comes ace 5-4, and there is one diamond out there. I'm going to check it over to my opponent, who's probably going to be betting his entire range on this board texture, being that he's in position and definitely going to have an ace in this spot. It seems like $20 is what he'd like to do. So I end up making the call, as I see that is fairly fit, considering we do have bottom pair, a gut shot, as well as a backdoor flush draw. The turn comes a very magical card as it comes the 4 of spades, and now brings a backdoor flush draw, as well as giving us trips. Very interesting card in the simple fact that it adds more equity to my opponent's range, as well as is going to be a card that I'm going to be leading here for bluffs a ton of the time. My bluffs in this spot will be any open-ender, pretty much any gut shot, and sometimes a sicko like myself might just be turning a 5 into a bluff in this spot as a lead here too. The good thing is I want to be leading this turn card for pot and then betting about 1.5 pot on the river with all my bluffs and all my value hands. So with the action on me, I end up deciding to bet $175 here, obviously for value. My opponent goes deep into the tank and is obviously very confused about my bet sizing before he eventually decides on a call. We're going off to a river, not really looking to fade too much besides exactly an ace. And the river comes an 8 of clubs. Unfortunate because this is going to be a card that's good for my range here. I'm going to definitely have a bunch of these open-enders on the flop and the turn. And it's just unfortunate when, like I said, this doesn't too often help my opponent, make my opponent any happier with his own hand. It might almost always make him more disappointed in the hand that he's holding. I'm targeting specifically a hand like an ace or an unbelieving middling pair. But I'm not going to change the plan here because I will have bluffs in this spot very often. I decide to bet a very large sizing of $650, to the tune of which my opponent pretty quickly decides to make the fold. Happy with my play in that hand, just not the best river in the world for him to call down on, and we'll live to fight another day. If you guys do me a big solid and drop a like on today's video, you guys know these videos take a ton of time to edit and I have nobody helping me. And at this point, we're dropping 3 videos a week, so it'd keep me motivated. It'd mean more to me than you can ever understand. And like I said, it'd go a long way in helping our little community grow. Also, if you haven't checked already, make sure you're subscribed because it seems like a lot of you guys haven't subscribed yet. It goes a really long way as well. It means a lot to me too. I don't think it's a great idea to try to bluff an OMC. But let me get you guys on this next hand because it is a pretty ridiculous one. I look down at A7 of diamonds here for middle position. Earlier position decides to limp here, and I'm isolating him to $60. When it gets back over to him, he throws the fake little jab at the fold button, a little pump fake of sorts. He ends up making the call, giving me action here, and we're going in position off to a flop that comes Jack 5-4 Rainbow. Pretty interesting lid to flop. With the opponent checking over to me here, continuing to play in flow, I decide to c-bet for $45. He pretty quickly makes the call. We're going off to a turn card, comes the 3 of hearts. We now pick up a double gut shot here, any 6, and any deuce gives us a straight. Pretty great card, all things considered. When he checks over to me, this is about the time where I think it's time to go into blast off mode. Betting $205, a massive sizing here. I need to go over the size of the pot. Remember, we did it earlier with the hand for value. It's about time that we do it with the hand that's a bluff. My opponent almost instantly makes the call. I'm getting a little worried at this point, and even more so when the river comes a jack. Bing, bang, boom. Why am I making that little sound effect? Because these live tails come into major play. I mean, it would have, yeah, you don't have to be a superstar to catch this. My opponent goes literally, throws his hands up in disgust from that river, super upset. I was planning on checking back this river. It's never a good idea to try to bluff at a board pairing river card. But with all these shenanigans, I mean, how can I not help myself to an opportunity of winning this massive pot? When he checks over to me, he has about $700 effective behind. All right, let's try to see what happens. I end up jamming all in here with ace high, obviously as a bluff. And my opponent instantly flips over his hand 4-5 of clubs. He is super pissed off, throws his hands away, picks up his chips, and walks away into the middle of the night, never to be seen or heard from again. Man, that was, yeah. And the table could not believe that I bluffed him. And I guess this is the proof. We got lucky there because if he doesn't do that, I would have not bluffed. But I had to take the bait, I guess. Alrighty, folks, here just about to take a little restroom break, but we're going to use it as a mid-session update. Kind of crazy little bluff we just pulled off there with ace-7 of diamonds. Didn't think I would be pulling the trigger on a river that's usually not good for bluffing, but I just went with my live read and it ended up turning out really well for me. So, man, what the heck is going on today? I feel like I've been putting all these really weird spots and I just been lucky enough to capitalize on them. Just going with my live reads and they've been working out for me okay. If you guys haven't already, make sure to check out the Telegram link at the top of the description. It's the only place you guys can check out the splash squads. You guys can play live. There's a free roll every single Thursday, so that's a couple days from today. 2K Max. Say hi to the boys.
What's up? What's up? What's
How are the
up?
boys?
Hey, this is the spot. This is the spot to be.
Have a nice day, man. Stay safe. That was awesome. Anyways, yeah, check out the splash squads. Free roll every single Thursday. It's like a 2K free roll, completely free. Don't have to pay to sign up. And if you did want to mix it up, it's the only place you'd ever catch me playing online poker. I'll see you guys at the end of the session because we've still got some poker to play. After taking a brief potty break, it seems like my brain is less scrambled and I'm more able to focus on the tasks at hand. Everything up to, this point has been all right. I don't think I've made any really bad plays besides the second hand, I think. So let's lock it back in, get focused up and capitalize on what is actually a pretty good game running at the late wee hours of the night. Early position opens to $30. I'm sitting here on the button with ace jack off, so we're playing six-handed. Never going to be missing a spot like this to 3-bet and use my position. I make it $90 to go. 3x seems just the perfect amount. He instantly makes a snap call, which almost never equals a good hand. I think any reasonable hand you have to at least think about, so he's probably on autopilot mode with some kind of middling pair or some kind of Broadway hand. The flop comes out ace-4-3, absolute golden ticket to success. I'm going to be down betting here to around a third size of the pot with my entire range. I could even go less, to be quite honest. I can't even get my bet out for $60 before my opponent makes a fold. Pretty happy with the result. Obviously, it's nice when you make the hand, but it's even nicer when I have a hand like King 9 suited or King 10 suited. We can just instantly take it down as well. Catching up here in the following hand, we look down at 5-6 offsuit from the straddle. We're playing six-handed, I believe, or seven-handed at this point. Under the gun opens to $60. The big blind makes the call. We're going to go ahead and complete. Not a great hand, obviously, but this is going to be a good hand to have from the straddle, considering I won't be correlating too much or interfering with the under the gun opener's range. Flop comes fairly decent. 10-7-5, 3 hearts. Action actually checks through, which is pretty outstanding, especially when the turn card comes as 6. Our opponent here from the big blind decides to lead out for $80. Although there are several straights out there as well as flushes, it'd be very nitty to make a fold here, especially when I'm in position. So I make the call for $80, hoping for a nice run out, and it comes just what the doctor ordered. Bang. $210 is sent into the middle, and, it's hard to complain when the river is a beautiful 6. We make a boat somehow, some way. I really don't even know how else to react to that. When my opponent leads out for this sizing, he obviously has some semblance of value. And even if he doesn't, it doesn't matter what my raise is. He only has around $650 behind. He's never going to call anyways if it's a bluff, or he's never going to try to remake a move. So I think at this point, there's no other thing to do besides make the jam. And the reason being is I'm obviously targeting hands that are flop flushes, 2 pairs. There's just a ton of value out there. There's straights out there. And I just doubt my opponent can make the fold with such a small amount of chips left behind to play for. He invested so much of his stack already. I think our goal here is to get the maximum level of value. So we jam all in. After going to the tank for about 30 seconds, I don't even know if you can call that the tank, he eventually ends up putting the chips in. I show him the bad news as I went on a pretty nasty little runner, which we all know is much funner. He's pretty upset and shows us 10-7, so he flopped top 2 pair. We got unbelievably lucky there for a massive pot to cooler somebody. I guess I'm just not allowed to complain about running bad ever again, because that was absurd. To this point, the table's actually been fairly lively. It was pretty bad to start off with, but I want you guys to catch something that occurs here. The game's had a mandatory straddle going on here, and as you guys can see from the straddler's position, he actually folded his hand out of turn. He then asked the dealer to give him his cards back, as he does put out his $20 straddle. He's not going to decline that, as again, we've been considering it to be mandatory. Anyways, to catch everything up at this point, OMC decides to raise from the under the gun position. We are currently playing 5-handed. He raises it to 80 buckaroonies, as it ends up folding to me here from the big blind. I decide to 3-bet out of position, but with a little bit of a range advantage when I do this, to $240 going at 3x. I think I should be sizing up to around 270, 260, because I need to make it a little larger considering I am out of position and there is dead money from the straddle. Anyways, he instantly makes a call and we're going off to a flop, hoping to interact with this in some fashion. There's a 10 of diamonds in the window, followed by a queen and a 5. So, you know, not a horrible flop. We do make a pair, but we've got to start betting here for some equity denial, as well as to bet our entire range on a board texture like such. I decide to bet $185, which my villain opponent pretty quickly decides to make the call for. We're hoping to improve in some fashion, or if at not the very least, have a reasonable card to bluff at, or I don't even know what to do exactly against our OMC friends of the day. The turn card comes a 7. Doesn't change very much at all, if anything whatsoever. I think that my opponent has a really weak queen here, or even sometimes he's going to have a draw. So he can definitely have a hand like king jack, jack 9, as well as a weak queen. And what I'm trying to do with this bet is almost kind of like a merge. I want to get better hands to fold, and I wouldn't mind drawing hands to make the call. The one thing that I do have to note is that I'm blocking the king here, so it's hard for him to have the king high straight draw. I just can't go away from what I started the plan off, so I decide to jam, as mentioned, for around $1,000. My opponent goes into the tank, and I'm sweating this one out hard because this is a make or break pot for me on the session. This can mean that I make a nice little profit, or I'm going to be going down in a ball of flames. After quite some pause, a little bit of hemming and hawing, our opponent decides on a fold, a massive pot coming in our direction. Let's freaking go. Although to this point, I haven't played like my A+ game. I think we've been playing all right. It also helps when we have a ton of live reads to go off. I think today's session has been mostly like live reads. I don't even know if a lot of theory has been implemented. And you don't really need to put all that much theory into play, in my opinion, in spots where you can just exploit people that are making egregious live tell situations. In the very next hand, the button decides to limp it over to us. Again, this is still the very next hand from the last video you're seeing. I looked down at knight 7 of spades here from the small blind. I'm going to go ahead and decide to limp here. I have a live tell on the big blind. I kind of have a good feeling of when he's going to be folding the hands. Otherwise, he's been isolating almost every time this has happened, so I've been trying not to limp here. He decides to make the fold. The straddle decides to check his option. We're going to a pretty dismal flop as it comes 6-6 queen. Obviously, I'm done with this hand. It's not very helpful, so I don't even know why I bring it up. But everyone decides to check. Pretty interesting. The turn card gives a 7 of clubs to yours truly. I'm now going to start betting for equity denial. It seems like nobody's really interested in this pot, and there's like $60, $70 to fight for. So I'm going to bet pretty small here, $25 to go, somewhere around a third of the size of the pot. The button decides to make the call, and the river comes another queen. Okay, this is interesting. We can do a couple of different things, but I think the best thing to do here is with a flush draw and the board pairing to do a little bit of a blocker bet. Obviously, my opponent can have a better hand a ton of the time, so I decided to bet $35, and it seems like that is the perfect song for my opponent to hear, as he shows us 8-10 of clubs. He went runner, runner. I guess we did it to him earlier. It's only fair that it happens to us here, right? But ended up losing what it feels like the minimum there. I feel like if I check it over him on the river, he'd be betting some, amount larger than $35. And that's kind of the point of implementing these little small bet sizes on the river, is by allowing your opponent to not make a play against you. In a couple sessions in a row, we've been able to use it, and it's nice to have that in your back pocket. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's session. Let's get it back to us live in the moment at the Gardens to talk about how the session went and all the totals. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today's session was kind of a swingy one. Jeez, man. Runner in that 6 spot with 5-6 against the flop 2 pair. Especially with no heart coming is pretty ridiculous. It's like a very low chance of me winning the hand, but obviously it was just played itself, honestly. If I'm going to run good, it's nice to run good and make some money. Anyways, today's session comes to a close. And I bid you guys a lovely Monday evening or afternoon, whenever you guys are watching this. And let's get to the totals of today's session. We were into today's session for $2,400 and out for a whopping $3,690. So about a $1,290 win, so just shy of, $1,300. Pretty ridiculous. Pretty satisfied with, I think the way we played. It's fun kind of using a little bit of theory sometimes and what I've been working with my coaches on. But it's also really fun to just kind of go full-blown exploitive, like 100% exploitative. And obviously with that ridiculous live tail that my opponent had, it was pretty easy to take advantage of it. So if that's something you guys suffer with, obviously just be wary of it. And I would have never pulled a trigger on such a bad river to bluff on if it wasn't for, obviously, his live tail. Anyways, I appreciate you guys as always. If you guys haven't already, make sure to drop a like on today's video. You guys don't understand how much it does to help our little channel grow. I hope you guys are enjoying the 3 times a week uploads. It's been kicking my butt, but the one-man show does not stop. I'm going to keep on grinding this out. I'm going to hold myself accountable because I appreciate all the constant support you guys are putting out. You guys have been unbelievable, to be quite frank, and I owe it to you guys 100 times over. So, again, all the important stuff is down below. Oh, just quickly, actually, one little brief thing I'm going to ask you guys for a big favor. If you guys haven't already, make sure to follow my Instagram, Close to Broke, super simple. I don't really plug it on here much, but we have a pretty decent little following over there. And that's where you guys can see like live chip stuff on the stories. If you guys ever want to meet with me, I obviously let you know wherever I'm playing and, you can say hi. But yeah, thank you guys as always. Have a lovely day. Let's get the hell home. It's way too late and I'm tired and I'm hungry. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay happy, stay healthy. More importantly, run good at the tables. Deuces!